All right. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, everybody is having a fantastic week. Today is the 31st of March. The monthly close will be today. We're going to start Q2 tomorrow, and the world is still, well, the U.S., Israel, and Iran are still in a conflict, and that is causing oil prices to essentially drive order flow. So things are a little bit crazy. We're going to see what we can do today. We're going to keep our wrists tight and look to pull out some profits if we can today. Right here, Bitcoin is trading currently under the March open. It's fitting, seeing how today is the March close. So it'll be interesting to see what it can do here. Near-term resistance, or the price that essentially halted the bullish move yesterday, is going to be last week's open. That's literally where your resistance is setting right now. Yesterday's high is roughly at about 68.3. You're currently trading under the March open. The weekly VWAP sets at 67.147, and you have an upside or an ascending trend line coming in as potential support. This trend line essentially is the bottom of the bear flag on a line chart. So if I put this chart as a line, you can see here that this weekend we did close Sunday under. So you did have a breakdown coming into the weekly open on the line chart. So anybody that's looking at the line chart would have seen a breakdown, and if they like to take, short positions because of the breakdown, then they got short. That sparked a little bit of a bullish rally going into yesterday. Order flow was extremely bullish too, but price got up to the weekly open or last week's open and stalled out. So as of right now, it does look like the bears, they stepped in front of that bullish pressure and are winning the battle. So there, I was looking for some news, any kind of headlines, because we saw oil yesterday kind of do nothing. Brent crude and U.S. oil West Texas Intermediate, it's just the WTI, do really nothing. U.S. oil was a little bit more bullish in the morning, and then Brent kind of went up a little bit yesterday, closing a 4-hour candle breakout style candle late session, and then sold off rapidly. But then over the middle of the night, something happened to cause oil prices to spike back up again. Now, yesterday we were kind of looking for a short on oil, and we got stopped out of that position. So it looked like we might have been a day early, or at least, half a day early, as it did ultimately sell off a little bit yesterday. So today we're going to most likely have that same bias today on oil, which normally would give us more of a near-term, well, not normally, but now that oil has spiked and is accumulating what looks to be higher lows, looks like it wants to go up. But we got news yesterday that Donald Trump is trying his best to stop this war. So if the war were to stop, we think that oil prices would come off a little bit. Obviously, that sentiment could be extremely wrong. So if you are trying to short oil, make sure your risk is mitigated. Make sure you know what you lose if oil is to go up much higher, because it absolutely can go up much higher. But this chart does not do the oil chart justice, or Brent crude. We're looking at Brent. So let's go ahead and pull up Brent crude real quick on the top screen, as I do have a position open on it right now. But we'll see if this amounts to anything. Yesterday, here's that close above. So it almost looked like Brent crude was going to break out and start trending higher. But no, after you got that breakout close above, you liquidated the top side of the levels, or the top side of the range. You just essentially stopped out everybody who was short going back into last week. You've been sideways here for a bit of time now. So this is a bearish reaction, and typically we want to fade any pullback into that kind of a supply candle. Whenever you take out and close below the low, that is usually a decent signal. But when you have choppy and chaotic markets like we have right now, it doesn't mean that the trade is going to work. So make sure you're using stops. I have a pretty decent sized position on this, I think. I don't know yet because I haven't been able to catch, excuse me, sorry about the raspy voice this morning. I haven't been able to catch a trending move out of this yet. So I don't really know what I have in store for me here. And as long as price is trading under 4-hour supply, then I want to hold a short. If price is trading above that level, I don't. So let me move this line over here where it's supposed to be. So 107.87 on the Brent crude contracts. That's what I'm looking for. When we get the New York Open here this morning, we could see a spike above that prior 4-hour swing high. So I may close this position out if I see prices head back up instead of eating a full stop, and just close it and then wait for the liquidation above the prior high and then see if it rejects. If it rejects, then I will try to get filled on a short trade and then see if we get that run lower today. But in terms of being bullish on Bitcoin, if oil falls, I don't know if that's going to happen. And the reason for that is because there was, I guess, an article that came out last night or this morning. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Well, I'm not going to click on links because I do not ever click on links. So I'm going to show you real quick in the Discord. It looks like Google is saying, time's up for crypto if it can't complete quantum fork. Google is currently the leader in quantum computing. They're the ones that are making all the breakthroughs and stuff like that. And obviously quantum computing is a massive risk for crypto. So it does seem like it was most likely a headline article that caused Bitcoin to sell off. Because I got to be honest with you, I thought yesterday Bitcoin was going to break out above last week's open simply because of the bullish order flow. This is massively bullish yesterday. So I was anticipating a pullback to support. Unfortunately, that support ended up being a far deeper than what we thought it would be. But ultimately, support did come in and you did see price spike. So I actually thought we would be testing the daily 21 exponential moving average again by the time I woke up this morning. So I was very, very curious to find out what happened there. So we're still in price discovery. Your weekly high is going to simply be today's high up there. You're trading down near the low of day. So it looks like the bears are back in control. So the way you could mitigate Bitcoin positions here, it looks like the sellers want to have control. Prices broke down and deltas are negative. So, it's an indicator. It doesn't mean that price is going lower, obviously, but I don't like the point of control. If I was going to be looking for a new entry on a short today, I would much rather see the point of control higher up in the daily range. So, take that from what you will. Not much of a signal, right? There's not much of a signal that I can give you. And I would say, look for shorts here at the March Open, because the March Open is an objective potential level of resistance. It is an objective level. It signifies whether the month of March price or Bitcoin closes up or down for that month. So it is a huge line in the sand, if you will. And the fact that your weekly VWAP is trading above that, even though the POC is down here, I would have to have more of a downside bias today. All right. And anytime we retest prior week ranges or prior week's ranges and those opens hold like it did yesterday and today, today, last week's open is resistance. I tend to be more on the look for a lower weekly low. So that would be your downside target if you did take a short on Bitcoin today. Your weekly low right now currently sits at around 65,769. That's a big weekly support level. So your short setup, which I'm not going to take, would be like this. You would figure out where you want to put your stop. That's up to you. That's not up to me. But if I was going to be shorting it, this would be how I'd want to be setting that up. Something like this, right? Something like this. But anyways, I'm not taking the trade on Bitcoin today. I'm more interested in the oil trade, and I'm looking at Amazon and Apple today for potential setups. Apple, I don't think I'm going to get it. It's already essentially rolled over. The setup would have been up here if it was going to play out. So Amazon is still potentially giving us a setup here. Now, here's the thing. Euro this morning, extremely bullish. So that is in line with dollar pullbacks. Let's go to the dollar real quick, as you can see what it is doing. So oil is also driving order flow in the dollar. And as you can see, dollar is pulling off here, which is a massive level up here. This level essentially signifies whether dollar is breaking out of a 10 or 11 month range, a very long-term range. The implications of a breakout here would be massive. They would be massive because the macro scenario is more in tune or in line with a bearish dollar positioning. So if you were to break out to the upside in the US dollar, because most people are positioned short, that would cause or could potentially cause a multi-month run to the upside. But as it has been pretty much this entire range, this level is still acting as resistance. If we go out to the quarterly chart here, which is important, so you can see 3 quarters, almost an entire year, we've been trading in this range. We have been unable to break down below the range. Even though we wicked down there, you couldn't sustain a rally or a meltdown, right? You couldn't sustain a trending move under the range, just like you cannot or have not yet been able to sustain a bullish move up out of the range. So it does look like the dollar wants to stay in price discovery and in this range. And it makes it very difficult trade because it's more bullish on the near term. You're clearly making higher lows and higher highs here. So that signifies a bullish trend. We have been bullish pretty much most of Q1, right? So this trend is the trend that I think we should be looking at until you get some kind of bullish invalidation, which we have not seen. This is not a bullish invalidation. Just because it's rejecting does not mean it's going to break down. But you have the macro. If we will see 2 more rate cuts this year, for instance, that would be more negative, more bearish for the dollar. Now, I understand that markets right now or last week was not pricing in 2 rate cuts. The market was more or less pricing in maybe 1. And then the week prior to last week, there was a 20% chance of a rate hike by December. Now, that has since faded. The last time I looked at the dollar tool or the Fed watch tool, literally that rate hike by December, end of year, is gone. Like 5%. It's so way out there. It's not even fathomable at this point. And now it's starting to go back in line of maybe 2 rate cuts by the end of the year. So the dollar seems to be struggling to break out here. So if oil rolls over, this is my major overall bias, right? If oil pulls back or starts to pull back, that could keep the dollar in this larger long-term range, which ultimately would be more bullish for risk on assets, including Bitcoin. So, I mean, if you do see a serious pullback, which you're not, this is not a serious pullback, you're a trending candle on the dollar. You took out yesterday's high today, so you are trending. It isn't an inside candle. If you take out yesterday's low, it'll be an outside candle or an engulfing. You'll have a bullish engulfing candle at resistance on the daily time frame, which didn't really amount to much last week. So, I mean, it's, it is what it is, right? I would have more of a near-term bullish bias. So as long as the dollar is trading above yesterday's low, I would be anticipating that there is probably going to be a support check at some point. But this is a lot of momentum, and I never, ever want to step in front of momentum. I like to try to get my trades positioned in around momentum. So in other words, I would much rather have been a short seller today on the dollar instead of trying to be a buyer and stepping in front of it, right? Even though my bias is more bullish. So we'll see what the dollar does here. And I think overall that's going to move markets in a way that isn't going to be very conducive to my bias. So my bias is more bearish for Bitcoin because of the price action we've seen up into this point. You haven't made a lower weekly low yet, and you have made 2 higher weekly highs. So the near-term structure on Bitcoin would be more bullish than bearish, even though we're trading closer to the day low. Like I said, you have made many. This is your weekly low. That's your weekly open. You made a fresh weekly low one time so far this week, and many fresh weekly highs. So this is more of a pullback, even though it looks vicious and volatile. And if you're watching that on the 5-minute chart, you're going to say Bitcoin has crashed. You know what I mean? So I guess it's just time frame. But even though, it could roll over here, this would be the resistance point at which I would want to see it fail if I was bearish. But since the dollar is pulling back so hard, makes it hard for me to be bearish on Bitcoin. That's why I'm not going to trade it. Also, I have a short on Bitcoin already from last week, and it is a decent position size. We shorted Bitcoin up here. I see no reason to close that position or modify it in any way. So I'm going to leave it open and see what happens. If we start trending higher on the weekly range that we're currently building, then I'll think about taking more profits off of it. In terms of open positions, what I have right now, this is a real money account. What I have right now is there's that Bitcoin short down there. I've already taken profits on it. So this profit or this unrealized P&L that I'm currently holding of 615 is the house's money. It isn't my money. My money's already out of the market. So it's just unrealized gains. This is what's at risk. And then I have Fartcoin, same. I've already taken profits on that. So once again, I have a free house money position open on Fartcoin for the short side. On Amazon, if the dollar finds support, I will be trying to see if Amazon rolls over here. Like I said, I think it's setting up. Let's go back down here. Right now, you're testing the March open on Amazon. Your intraday chart, so if you were coming at this as a day trader, you would be more bullish because your 200 exponential moving average is well beneath the 21, which is the quicker moving average. I would not buy this because, in my opinion, the moving averages need to be close together. They are stretched out already because you're already seeing a trending move happen here. So it is risky to try to short into this as you are trending and the moving averages suggest it's going to keep going. So I'm going to I have a very tight stop loss on. I'm risking $500 on the trade, but I'm only risking $30 of that $500 position size. I have 10x leverage on the short. So if it breaks out above the highs and spikes on the open, I'll lose $30. That's what I'm risking on the trade because I want more than one shot at it. I think that you're stretched out pretty far away from the 200, so a pullback is probably coming. You have a large gap up here from where you closed the market out yesterday to where you're going to open today. That's going to be a pretty wide gap. I'm not looking for gap fill. I don't trade gaps. I'm looking for a short on it because the near term is bearish. Last week was a breakdown, a lower close than the prior week. A nice lower move here. So right now, essentially, you're retesting the midpoint of last week's range. Very choppy, very range bound. But if we're going to break down and make fresh yearly lows on Amazon, then right here, I think would be a decent place to look for that positioning. We look here on the 3-day. Essentially, that's going to be just the very back part of the week for last week, where you got that move. So I don't know if we're going to see downside continuation. We're looking to retest Friday's open. If we get up there, I no longer have a short side bias on it. I do not want to see a full-on retest of Friday's open because Friday was so bearish. It had so much momentum. I would want to see that have continuation on into the week. But if the dollar sells off hard, that's going to give the markets a risk-on fill or a risk-on feel, so to speak. So that's what I'm looking at. I think the setups are oil and Amazon. I could be wrong. We'll find out. Like I said, hopefully everybody's having a fantastic day. Let me clear my... Okay, let's see. DXY, very, very weak today. Is that going to give risk markets a move up? Are they going to be... Have they found a low this morning? Are they going to be super bullish? It's a possibility. I think if the war was to come to an end, or if you get that headline, Iran agrees to a deal with the U.S., boom, the markets are most likely going to spike hard in the upward direction, right? Because that's where the major headline risk is, and the headwind risk on risk markets is all coming from this, right? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We got 9 minutes till the bell. Hopefully everybody's in good shape. Good mornings, good mornings, a lot of good mornings. I don't know what that link is for. CME Group. That's going to be your dollar, the Fed Watch tool most likely. So we're seeing bullish continuation volumes on the euro. So that we could see this thing continue to go lower. And I do like that Brent crude. Brent crude looks fantastic to roll over. So we'll see if it does or not. I don't know if I have a correct position size in it because I've never traded it before. Also working with 10x leverage on that. So for the stocks, I'm going to be hovering around 10x leverage. I do not have a stop loss out on Amazon. Let me go ahead and put one in there real fast. So we need to be about 6%. That'd be a $30 loss. The account's doing good. We're up nicely this week. We got a nice buffer because we closed out an Apple short yesterday as well. So that's an additional $300. So all in all, on the upside, we're up pretty close to about 700 bucks. What happened? I did not see what that was. Did you guys see what that was? That a second here. We'll see if it does or not. I don't know if I have a correct position size in it because I've never traded it before. Also working with 10x leverage on that. So for the stocks, I'm going to be hovering around 10x leverage. I do not have a stop loss out on Amazon. Let me go ahead and put one in there real fast. Trying to see what that pop-up was. I don't need to listen to my voice though. Sorry about that. Yeah, just give me 1 second. I can't make that any bigger. Apparently. Yeah, I cannot see what that was. All right, it doesn't really matter, I guess. Let me go make sure I got a stop. Yeah, it looks like there's a stop situated there. So this looks like a continuation move. This isn't typical of a rejection, because if it was going to be a rejection, like there's your breakout right there. This candle was the breakout candle. So if it was going to be like oil where it gives you that sort of breakout look and then it was going to reverse, which I need it to do in order to be short, then I would not typically want to see this candle pushing this far above the prior high. So if you go back, so I am most certainly going to eat a stop here, is what I'm trying to say. So you don't need to try to short Amazon. It looks like it wants to go back and do a 200 EMA retest on the 4-hour time frame. You're above the 50 here on the RSI, so it is structured and poised to make a run up today, right? But if we go back to oil real quick, or the Brent crude contract, I can show you what I am talking about. See how this candle closed above? It was the one and only candle that closed above. Notice where that wick high is, how it is also the liquidation. So you're, upon making that high, you were literally, that's the highest high in this structure. And then the very next candle did not wick even above. It was a lower high, then it dumped. That's different than what we're doing here. So this is a liquidation, check. And it was a close above resistance, check. So is it possible that it could still fail and roll over? The answer is yes. It would just be a bearish engulfing candle. But is it what I want to see if I'm anticipating that? No, it isn't. It isn't. Generally, I want to see this next candle open and just start heading lower. So the fact that it opened and is heading higher means that I could eat a stop. I'm probably on the wrong side of the market today. It doesn't mean Amazon won't be a short later on this week, right? It could still be a nice short. But if the war ends, I don't really want to be short risk markets, because a lot of risk markets are at like significant areas to potentially be a buyer. Like Microsoft, for instance, that thing is so oversold. I would not want to be a seller on it because of how oversold it is. Amazon is not oversold yet. You're not even tagged oversold yet. So there's plenty of room on the downside, potentially, on both daily and weekly time frames. Whereas if we go look at Microsoft, it is massively oversold here on the daily and massively oversold here on the weekly. So Microsoft isn't a short, in my opinion. The odds of a larger short side move working out are so low that it's not worth taking the risk on putting shorts, new fresh shorts on Microsoft. So the only thing I could do with Microsoft is be a buyer. That's all I could do. And I don't want to be a buyer yet because there's too much headwind risk out there. While the war is going on, I think there's just too, it could still go lower. I just think like if you're looking for a larger downside move, because let's be clear, most retail right now is as bearish as you can be. Like I see people talking about how this world is literally about to end. Like monetary policy as we know it is going bye-bye. And it's about to be a free-for-all. Winner take all. That is most likely not going to happen. Is it a possibility? Of course it is. But I wouldn't be betting on a fresh short at 364 on Microsoft. I think there are far better assets to look at if I anticipate a much larger downside move coming. That's all. So Amazon looks okay for a short. Microsoft does not. Apple looks okay for a short. Apple just is like poised perfectly for a good short. There just isn't a setup on it today. Like right now, this second, it's already running. It's already running. If I was going to be short on Apple, I'd want to be short here. Not down here. I'm not a breakdown trader. There's the bell. All right. And of course, Microsoft goes straight up, or Amazon goes straight up and stops me out. Okay, so we might get that set up here on Apple. Actually, I did not eat a stop yet, but it is so close, I am probably going to. So close. Here's proof. It's not proof, just, you get what I'm saying. It was very close. Probably will eat a stop. And then here's Apple. We have an opportunity to get short again. Like I said, intraday structure does not look like you should be looking for shorts. This would be more of a buying opportunity if support holds or a higher low. Typically, I would look for shorts at the yearly opening range, and it might be, if I miss it, I'll miss it. I already have the Amazon short. I don't necessarily, if I get stopped out of that, I most likely don't want to be looking for Apple shorts either. Though if the Apple short works, Amazon short could work, right? Amazon just has a better setup. This year is already over, 2025. We're in a new year, and most taxes have already been paid on 2025 data. The 2025 data is important, but it's not hugely important. Okay, so that said network error. That's what that pop-up said. Network error. Try again later. Very strange. Everything seems to be working. Yeah, I don't know. I got stops out on everything just in case, because I don't like that pop-up. I mean, Bitcoin and Fartcoin, I don't care about what happens to them. I do about Bitcoin. I do not want to lose $600 of unrealized P&L, obviously. But if I lose the $100 of unrealized P&L on Fartcoin, I don't care. But I don't like that network error pop up at all. Those stops. Make sure you're using stops. All right. Apple is finding a little bit of a pullback here. Amazon pulling back slightly too. So if the dollar does find support here, because like I said, if it doesn't take out yesterday's low, it's still a trending candle to the upside. Your pressure would still be to the upside. If anything, this is a weekly open retest, which would be a buying opportunity if you anticipated that the dollar was going to break out and go on a multi-month run to the upside. This would be pretty much your last chance to get involved in that. But I don't like getting involved in a support test when there's that much momentum going into support. You sound super familiar. I think I know you, bro. It's possible. I've been doing this for 5 years. The YouTube stuff. Maybe you jumped onto one of my live streams before. And I put out weekly uploads every Saturday too. I do about 3 videos a week on the YouTube channel for the public community. I'm live every day for the Discord community. Dollar is pulling back. A lot of people say I sound like Crypto Face too. He has a large audience, so maybe you're confusing me with him as well. A possibility. Let's go look at Bitcoin. We have a little bit of a bounce here at the bell. Oh, there's your day open. We don't really care about yesterday because we've already taken out yesterday's high today. We do care about yesterday's low, but we know that's going to be under or right at weekly support. Right there is your weekly low. So that's yesterday's low, just right under weekly support. So if Bitcoin gets down to weekly support today, you're most likely going to make fresh weekly lows. We don't really need to know about yesterday's data then. So right here's your low of yesterday, and you would have to make a fresh day high to be doing anything on the weekly range. We could have set the weekly high early this morning, or we could have just set a higher weekly low here a little while ago. Weekly support is a major level. We have not been able to close a weekly candle under that, and that weekly weekly support has held for the last 4 weeks in a row. So essentially, if this week does close under that, because we've already lost the bear flag trend line. Remember, this trend line, this blue trend line, is for the line chart only. We've already lost the downside of the actual bear flag. So let's forget about that one. That happened earlier in January, but if we put a trend line here, so you're retesting that as resistance today. A lot of resistance potential. So Amazon smoked me. I'm no longer in the Amazon short. I am stopped out of that. So that's a $30 loss. There goes Microsoft. So like I said, things feel a little bit more risk on today as everything is up nicely here. I want the deltas. I do not want that or that. Yeah, deltas are okay. They're not super strong. We're nowhere near last week's levels. So I really don't want to see this. So essentially what you've done so far is you've retraced every square inch of Friday's range. Could this act as resistance? It could. But I mean, to have a nasty breakdown move like that, you generally would want to see continuation come from that, if the weakness was that bad. Weakness signifies fear. Fearful selling. That's what a down market signifies. If they were that scared Friday, what has happened to switch that, so to speak? But I don't want to get chopped up on this either. But stocks are very volatile and they can move rather quickly. I do like the idea of a short because of how far you are extended from the 200, but only if it's going to roll over. I can't take it until it tests the level too. Yeah, things feel a little bit risk on because of the dollar. We were actually trying to catch that move yesterday. We were early when we took the short here on the dollar. As you can see, I got stopped out of it, and then it even went on up to make a fresh higher high. So if I was going to try the short again, based on what this level is and how big of a level that it is, I should have tried at the open yesterday, or sorry, today, this morning, which would have been last night for US citizens, but that would have been the opportunity, and I didn't take it because I wasn't so sure. We had a fresh breakout here, but obviously in hindsight, should have taken it again. As only eating one stop on it, if you catch the trade the next day, you're going to make your money back plus a whole lot more. I split my risk up into 3 units per day, so I can lose 3 trades per day. $30 a pop. So basically, I'm risking $100 a day to make $300 a day. So getting stopped out once doesn't mean that I can't, chase it a little bit. That gives you the freedom to chase it a little bit, but you have to be very strict on that third loss, you're done policy. You start taking 4, 5, and 6 losses, you're looking at a lot. You're not going to make your money back even if you're right. So it doesn't even matter at that point. But I caught it on the oil so far. I haven't been stopped out of oil yet. I think that the dollar and the oil are kind of trading correlated a little bit here. So I think if the dollar continues to roll over, oil will come off a little bit. So that's the reason, another reason why I didn't rush into that dollar short position. So yeah, it's not easy catching the correct market direction every single day. I mean, I guess that could probably go without saying. Testing the March open right now on Bitcoin. Today is the monthly close. Tonight, you will get a brand new quarterly candle. Q2, baby, we're here. Q2 2026. So if I was going to be anticipating Bitcoin rolling over, I would want to see that start to happen pretty damn soon. Let's see if we got any volume coming in here heavily on the session volume profile. Well, you're not going to be able to tell really. You've got a light volume node here. So yeah, I would want it to roll over here. If I was looking to put a fresh short on Bitcoin, I would be probably doing that here with a stop up at like 67,296. And I'd be targeting 66,016. I don't think that's a 2% move. Well, that is a 2% move, but yeah, it wouldn't even be a 2% move. So the range is kind of small. Could end up being a lot bigger of a range. I just don't think you're going to get it if the dollar stays very weak. Essentially, what you need for Bitcoin shorts to work out is dollar strength, not dollar weakness. And for everybody that was watching the live stream yesterday for the private Discord, that Solana position obviously got stopped out. So now I have all of that unrealized P&L on Bitcoin at risk. So if Bitcoin continues to trend up today, I'm most likely going to have to deal with that at some point. 10-year yields pulling back. I don't have live data on this platform, but on the other platform, it is down. So we're not seeing any big spikes there. So Bitcoin should have no problem bouncing. I am seeing this volume node spike a little bit. It's 15 minutes since the bells rang. Yeah, we got all the way back up there on Amazon. That's probably where I should have fired a short off. I'll try Amazon one more time. Well, I don't know that I even want to be honest with you. I do like the deltas. I like that. I just don't like the structure. Apple looks okay. Apple looks like it's going to continue to roll over. All right. I get a retest of 206.47. I'll put a short back on Amazon. Yeah, platform is lagged up a little bit, so I don't know if I like even the idea of taking a trade if that. Because I'm not sure what's going on. Just a second. We're way above yesterday's high. And here, I need to look at the 3-day. 3-day actually looks fine for a short. All right, I'll try a short one more time. I'm going to look for the fill at, what did I say that was? 206.46 on this. What's the high at? 77. And that high is what? 79. All right, yeah. 206.46 is where I'm going to put a sell limit. I do not know what would be a correct position size on it. I'm going to do the same size position as I did earlier. So limit orders out. If I get a retest of this level, I should get filled on a short, and I'll put another stop out for another $30, and then that'll be the last time I try Amazon. Let me see if I can even get a fill here. I do like these deltas, and I do like the volume build up here for now. But I don't like it because essentially what I'm saying is I need the dollar to turn around here. That's a lot of momentum. It could turn around here, to be fair. That's what I would need in order for that Amazon trade to work out. It's a lot of momentum to the downside today, but my bias on the dollar is still bullish, especially when there's a war. And also because of the structure. This is a nice rejection. I just don't know that you're going to see any continuation from this rejection. You could, because there's quite a bit of momentum. I mean, if it makes a fresh weekly low and continues to make fresh weekly lows, then obviously I would call that a swing high failure and a resistance hold on the dollar. But for right now, this is just a pullback to what is a very bullish asset. Have not been filled on the Amazon trade yet. It has very light liquidity too. It's only got 85,000 contracts traded in a 24-hour period. So I don't know that I'll even get a full fill if I get a retest of that level. I might have to chase it down a little bit, down 20 cents if I want the fill. Wait, here it comes. 35. I'm at 46. I need it to jump up 11 cents. If it can go up 11 cents, I'll get filled. Here comes my limit. 34. It essentially stopped at 34. There it is, 46, and I'm filled. Okay. Stop loss is going to be 207.59. 207.59, and that will be my last shot at it, or my last attempt at it. Because the oil trade is working, which means I'm probably wrong on this. Okay? If oil pulls back, you could see a very, very risk-on day. You could see stocks, U.S. stocks, be extremely bullish, especially the tech sector. Because, I mean, some of them are down pretty bad. Nvidia, down pretty bad. We looked for shorts on Nvidia. If you're new to the channel, we took a short on Nvidia at 187.24. We ultimately got stopped out of that short, but when I took the short, our downside target was the November low down here. So if this scam 5-minute wick wouldn't have taken me out of that trade, it would have been a beautiful trade. So that's why I got short Apple Friday to compensate for that Nvidia loss. But anyways, and then we've been bearish on Tesla for a minute, like for weeks. We just haven't been trading it, but our analysis has been chef's kiss on point with it. We have essentially been bearish on Nvidia and Tesla for weeks now. So yeah, I mean, some things are down significantly. They have been down for weeks, which is why looking for fresh shorts not the greatest plan here. ZEC, which is Zcash, it's a cryptocurrency, a privacy token, also experienced a spike this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. If you look at this on the 4-hour chart, that is a bullish AF candle. You even took out last week's high on this thing. So if there's about to be a short squeeze on this, it can commence. I don't think there will be, but I mean, I looked for news. I didn't see any sufficient catalyst for like an extended bullish move, but it could absolutely happen now that you've squeezed out all the shorts. And this is a higher low. So boom. Yeah, you've gotten a lot of shorts on that move right there. I wasn't long. I didn't have a long side bias. I was just bringing it to your attention because that's a rather large move there this morning. At one point, this thing was up 12% today. Higher than that if you go from the open. Like 13, 14%. 14.4. Not bad. 14% intraday move. Not bad at all. Yeah, Amazon is digging higher here. So that, what's Bitcoin doing? Also digging higher. All right, so since 9:30, Bitcoin has only been up. Only been up. So your weekly high is here. Now you are pretty much smack dead in the middle of the weekly range. So at this point where price is currently trading inside of the weekly range, it is anybody's game. It looks bad today, but I'm telling you, this thing could easily make fresh weekly highs again for like the 30th time this week. And we know where all the short sellers are. They are setting at last week's open and just above. This is last week's open. So don't continue to try to sell this thing. It's already above where we thought it would reject. It could end up working, but taking a short up in this just random area, gonna be a difficult short. All right, here's oil starting to get some steam here. I'm up 140 on the Brent crude trade. But Amazon's about to get stopped out. Because it's trending. You're trending higher at this point. It is not a rejection or a reversal. Deltas are back to trending almost. Looks like it wants to be a risk on day. Look at the S&P. Nice, fresh highs. Euro also fresh highs. So I like the oil short. Got a lot of support here to go through, but I do like it. What is Brent crude? I don't know the ticker to Brent crude. But I'm going to watch Brent Crude on the top screen up here instead of Amazon, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to eat a stop on Amazon. But the Brent Crude is looking okay here. So it literally turned around right at my entry, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful sight. At least I'm not being threatened like I am on Amazon. We're going to have to think about, seriously, what are we going to do with this? Because we don't want to lose too much unrealized P&L. We get a pullback on Amazon, we will probably just close it instead of eating a full stop. Now that euro is literally stretching out to the sky here with very bullish deltas. So that's a fresh weekly high on euro. Down all day yesterday. I was a day early, but a day early is still early. That's a loss. That's what a loss is. Early is wrong. Early is wrong. Good morning. What do you think of MSTR and its different products like STRK and STRC? I like STRC. I think it's here's the thing. If you have a lot of money, you might want to consult a professional to have them look at all the white tape, the fees and this and that, right? There's a lot of things set up with it, but I like how it is structured. My concern with it, while Bitcoin is under STR's MicroStrategy's cost basis, is we've heard Michael Saylor say several times that they're not going to sell. But I've also heard the CEO of MicroStrategy say, yes, they would sell if they needed to. So there's two conflicting sentiments there. I don't know at what point MicroStrategy would be forced to start selling Bitcoin. And obviously, Bitcoin would go much, much lower in that event. And in that scenario, STRC would be a very bad investment. But Bitcoin's super risky. It's one of those things, like, it's almost too risky to put your entire life savings into, which that would be a fantastic product. STRC would be a fantastic product for one's life savings because it generates, in between 10 and 11% annually, which is way more than you're going to get in treasuries or in a bank account or in essentially everything in terms of capital preservation for long-term duration. I love the idea of it. Just with any investment, there are risks associated with it, so don't go balls deep with it. But yeah, I'm going to invest in it eventually. I haven't done all my due diligence on it yet to do so now. I essentially wanted to wait and see what happens this bear market cycle with Bitcoin. I do believe Bitcoin goes much higher in the future, but I understand there are a lot of risks out there right now associated with Bitcoin. And unfortunately, MSTR is one of the biggest risks to Bitcoin now. So, quantum computing is a big risk to Bitcoin. Adoption is a big risk to Bitcoin. If you don't get adoption, then Bitcoin doesn't do what it was intended to do. But other than that, like long term, I think Bitcoin does put in a soft fork quantum computing fix. I think BlackRock will do something about it and force the issue. So long term, I like Bitcoin. I just like it with a percentage of one's assets, not the entire wad. Some people like Bitcoin and trust Bitcoin enough to do their entire wad. And Michael Saylor has hitched his company's wagon to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin does good, Michael Saylor looks like a genius. If Bitcoin does bad, Michael Saylor looks like an idiot. So it's a flipping coin toss. I like to be on the top end of probabilities, not the back end. I am I guess you would call me more of a risk averse trader, even though I'm a day trader and I look to do this on an everyday basis. That makes some people look at me as a very risky individual. But in terms of capital preservation, I am a very risk averse guy. I don't spend money that I don't need to spend. I don't buy useless bullshit like Lambos and jet skis and yachts. And I live within my means. I have a very meager existence. So I preserve my capital. And I would never put all of it in one basket. That's for sure. I own gold. I own silver. I own stocks. I own a lot of Bitcoin. I own more Bitcoin than I own anything else. Because I do have a firm belief that Bitcoin is the best asset for capital preservation and the ability to move capital. I think Bitcoin is ahead of its time in terms of that aspect of it. There is nothing else where you can leave with nothing, with just a thought in your mind. Nothing else can do what Bitcoin can do. If you can remember your wallet address and the keys to your wallet in your mind, you can literally fly to any country in the world and get access to your money. Because it's on the internet. It's in the internet. You can't do that with anything else. There are third-party risks on everything else. So I like the idea of Bitcoin. There are risks. Yeah, I like the STRC product. I really do. It definitely generates more of a yield than anything else. So if you had a lot of money that you wanted to put to work and you were comfortable losing it all, then I would be okay with putting it into STRC and generate that 11% annual return. And if you do it right, you could potentially do it tax-free even, which, let's face it, that's phenomenal. But obviously you have to do it the right way. Roth IRA and then other things that you have to do as an individual. But yeah, it's a fantastic product to have money in, just not all of it. Hopefully I've answered your question. Yeah, I like it. So I haven't been stopped out of Amazon yet. I think I am. I'm going to give it a minute here because I don't want to run out of it too soon, because the DXY is a little bit extended here on the downside on an intraday basis. It is not overextended on, it could definitely go much lower, but I think for 4 hours in a row, you've been going straight down it, or 3 hours. It might experience a slight pullback here, which means stocks could be topping out for a little bit. It's what happens after will dictate the daily range on most of these products. So I do like that POC buildup up there, your point of control. That means more trades have been taken here than anywhere else so far in the daily range. And we don't know if it's mostly selling or if it's buying, but we do know that the majority of trades have happened up here. It's probably going to be a lot of stop losses, but I do like that. Now what I would want to see is continuation, break below that neutral line, and then have price confirm that. If that were to happen, I would just stay put in the Amazon short, because you have liquidated Friday's high. You have closed this overhead gap here. So if it is going to sell off, it could do so now. I just don't know if that's going to play out, which I never do, though. Euro's having a slight bit of a pullback, and Bitcoin is also experiencing a little bit of a topping formation here on the very near term. On the daily range, to actually pull back at the value area high like that is kind of normal. And oil is still not breaking down, but it looks good for the breakdown. It definitely looks good for the breakdown. So I don't think the Amazon trade is going to work at this point. I think the trade that's going to pay the bills today is going to be oil. Brent crude specifically, which is the Euro crude. Brent crude is XBR on weeks. Yeah, I know what the ticker is on weeks. I just don't know what the ticker is here. I know I could pull up the XBR here. USDT. I guess I could do it that way. But I was actually wanting to look at the real Brent crude contract. But I guess it's fine. Because of this, I don't like that. But I guess I can look at it like this. It looks okay. 4-hour supply is still holding. Beautiful 4-hour supply candle. It's the exact thing that I want to see happen when looking for or trying to identify supply. Now, that does not mean that price is going to continue to roll over just because this is a perfect supply candle, because they don't always work. Price blasts through supply sometimes, but that is a perfect supply candle. It's a breakout, it's a liquidation above highs, a close above resistance, and then the very next candle is twice as big as the upside candle, and the close is under the low. So in terms of check marks to assess whether or not this is supply or not, the answer is yes. And all the checks are in the yes category. It is supply. Now, will that hold price? Well, time will determine that. Unfortunately, that's how markets work. Because you also sort of have a demand candle as well. With this breakdown, which it's not a breakdown below the low, so I guess this would not be demand. Not even a little bit. But it is a breakdown below support. So that's your current near-term support. 106.20, and you did get an hourly 4-hour close under it. You're testing the 50 to see if it wants to hold right now. Also would be testing the 21. This asset is super bullish, right? Which everybody knows that because it's had a recent spike. There's not enough data to even give you a 200, but if there were, it would be way down here. It might not even be on the screen. So you're definitely in an uptrend here. So a breakdown is counter trend. What is this? I just deleted the wrong thing. I don't love deltas, but they look okay. I would much rather see heavy selling pressure. Yeah, it's just, there are things I love about it, and there are things I don't. But it has been extremely choppy for a long time now, and that's because of the volatility. There's so many trades being placed on oil right now. You have so many people that are shorting it, thinking that, the war is going to end and everything's going to be fine and it's going to go back to normal. And then you have other people thinking that it's going much higher. So you have price discovery happening. That's why it's so choppy. That's why it's been so choppy for a minute now. But this is a very similar pattern to what we saw play out on gold and silver. Two also extremely volatile assets. So it could take time for this discovery to play out. The problem is the headline risk. Even though you've had a blow-off sort of style move to the downside, and this would be looked at as a lower high, a bad headline could wipe out that entire structure. But structurally speaking, I like it lower. And we were right on silver. Same exact kind of structure here. You go up, you make that near-term higher high, but ultimate lower high. And then you broke down. We got a lot of time, though, for it to play out. Okay, if we play our cards right, we could actually get out of Amazon with a profit here. It's just a very small profit, but instead of eating a full loss, but it looks good. That's a lower low on the 15-minute only. Ugh. If Amazon makes a fresh lower daily low, so right there's your day low on Amazon, 204.15, then I'll keep the short open. If Amazon fails to make a fresh daily low, I will exit the Amazon short. But right now, it's looking okay. It's got a little bit of downside momentum starting to come in here. The deltas look good. You're back to neutral. And the POC is on the top of the daily range. So those look good. Those things look good. This is what's so bad. Because buyers are going to be prone to come in here on a higher daily low because near-term intraday structure is bullish. We don't need this anymore. We've seen it. We've seen it. We know what's going on. We're right now in price discovery, sussing out the weekly volume weighted average price. Will there be buyers? I like that it bounced off the weekly open. I like that a lot. All right, so anybody just joining us, we're currently holding a short on oil and a short on Amazon. We know one of those things don't make sense. We're giving the market a little bit of time here to decide which one it is. I'm sure some people have taken a fresh Bitcoin short here this morning, anticipating a lower daily low and thus a lower weekly low. But with dollar weakness, that could fight against short positioning for today on Bitcoin. And that's essentially the extent of the live stream. We had a very, very weak dollar today. It's still in the context of an uptrend, though, so it could be a pullback. But when there's that much momentum, I generally will stay away from it. So instead of trying to buy it, anticipating that it's going to bottom, I would just stay out of it It's got too much momentum. This is your day low on Bitcoin, but it's not a fresh weekly low. You have to get under 65,769 to make a fresh weekly low. So right now, the weekly structure is sideways, but it is more bullish than bearish because you have not made a fresh weekly low yet, and you have made many fresh weekly highs. So my respect, if you will, would be more towards the bullish side of the market on Bitcoin. Which is why I did not take a short on it this morning. But there wasn't a long setup either. I would not have bought that weekly open retest. Not with that kind of momentum either. So it's been a very volatile market, or very sideways market, however you want to look at it. One thing kind of means the other. I mean, volatility is still very much elevated. The VIX is trading at 27.49 right now. So very elevated volatility. And you have choppy two-sided trade in the market because of that volatility. It's definitely been a difficult trade if you were trying to get long or short Bitcoin so far this week. If you were trying to get short, you should have been looking at the weekly open or last week's open for the short. That would have been the only place to look for the short. And if you did take that, well, your position is being threatened. Yeah, probably going to bounce out of the Amazon short. But we're just waiting to see if Brent crude will roll over. If you were to get a news headline that said something like Iran has made a deal with the US, this thing would fall out of bed. Probably. And people were positioning for shorts on oil this week. Big positioning. Right here, yesterday we had a guy put on, well, it wasn't yesterday because his entry's at 102. But he put on a big short position. I don't know that this guy is still in the trade. I haven't looked today, but $51 million short position on Brent and a almost $16 million short position on US crude. Huge short positioning. Doesn't mean he's right, though. But generally, the big money usually is right. Sometimes we see big money get smoked. And he's still very much in the red here, by the way, because Brent crude is at 106, not 102, which is his entry. So I don't know what he was thinking with that short. I don't know when he took it, but 102 is way down here. So he's still in a lot of pain. I could probably find out why he took it. I can. It looks like he took it down here. So he got in a little bit early. If he took it on this candle, that doesn't make sense. So the only place that makes sense, if I had a $52 million short position on oil at 102, it would have been here. Not here. I definitely never chase volatility. Ever. So it doesn't really make sense to me. And this is too early. If you're looking at the RSI, which the RSI is a very good indicator to help you get position, it does make a little bit of sense, right? Coming back into the 50, but it was the first time after getting massively oversold. I could have put on a trade there, but I wouldn't have loved it because that's just too quick. Going from oversold to the 50s, not usually the best thing to do, but now there's been some time here and it hasn't really been able to continue making higher highs. So now it feels a little bit more comfortable for that trade. But price is not acting like that yet, but I do like it lower. I think it continues to go lower. With what the dollar's doing and euro and everything else, it does feel good that Brent crude might pull back today. If we get that pullback, we'll take profits. Still not doing anything. There's a nice move on Bitcoin. All the way back up to trend line, the bear flag trend line. Potential resistance, maybe. I thought for sure Bitcoin was going to break out above the last week's open yesterday. It looked really good yesterday. We were actually talking about if we were going to buy Bitcoin yesterday, we could have probably got long in this. No, that's today. Would have been in this area, but I think it did dig a little deeper than where we were looking. We were watching this swing low. So no, that's about the area where we were talking about getting long yesterday, but that trade would not have panned out as it did break down later on that day. Yeah, a lot of volatility. This stuff is impossible to predict. Chaos like that. We call that random market violence. Random market violence, because it liquidated all the longs from Monday. Then it went up and liquidated all the shorts from Monday as well, and then gave you this big brutal sell-off to liquidate even more longs. Random market violence. It's been a difficult trade so far at the beginning of this week. I have not been paying attention to see if I've been getting paid on the Bitcoin short from the funding rate. I know today the funding rate is paying the longs. So I could check real quick to see how much I've paid in funding. Not much, $14. So I've been in the short for a minute on Bitcoin since last week, and I've paid $14 in funding fees. That's not bad at all. I do not like that pop-up. You guys are quiet this morning. Yeah, Amazon back to that level, so we'll find out pretty damn soon if we're right or wrong. If it goes on up and makes fresh day highs, I'll just get out of it instead of eating a full stop. Because Brent crude is not breaking down yet. As long as Brent crude is sideways in this range inside the last 4-hour candle, because we've got an hour and 30 minutes left on this. this is a very small, very tight range. So I don't know what it's going to do as long as it's range bound. Support is holding, and I don't like that. If you put a line on that old 4-hour support level, you can see that this near-term candle's wick is perfectly into that. So that is kind of what is stopping price here. It stopped it there. It is stopping it now. So until we break down below this, I don't know what Amazon's going to do. If oil breaks down, Amazon probably makes a fresh high. If oil holds support, Amazon could roll over. It's one of those scenarios. They do not trade inversely to one another. I'm just looking at it as, in terms of oil, is what's driving most of the order flow for the last week and a half. So, yeah. I guess you could say it has been kind of inversely correlated to risk markets in terms of the moves, the larger moves. Probably not Amazon per se, but risk markets as a whole. So a whole lot of nothing, which is what happened yesterday during the New York session. A whole lot of nothing. I mean, this is very choppy yesterday. It didn't resolve the New York session until almost 2 o'clock. Today, the New York session has been resolving to the upside only. Because that's your New York open right there. Risk on. So I'd love to see oil break down. And also, I don't like that it's so close to my entry. It's still so close. Still anybody's game. But Euro looks good for the oil breakdown, right? Because oil has put in this candle. This candle is a higher low. I don't think you're going to see a much bigger trending move than you've already gotten. Yesterday was a large trending range. Today, also a large trending range. Here, let's go back over here. So, Euro is inverse to the dollar. It's straight down. Maybe that will help this go down. We'll see. BTC kind of looks strong. It is very strong this morning. I agree. It's up 1.37% today and trending higher. Yep. Looks good. I liked last week's close for Bitcoin. Bitcoin did break down below weekly support briefly, but it held on the close, which is super important. And this week, that weekly support held again on the open of the weekly candle. So as you can see right here, This is the very opening weekly range. It traded straight down to that key support level, and boom. And then the Asian session came online and they bought it up on the higher low, and boom. And that set the tone going into London yesterday. During London, the London people bought Bitcoin, and then New York's tried to fade. Which they didn't try to fade, they did fade. This smoked the London traders. This smoked Asian session. And if that didn't get it, this right here got it. So literally anybody that bought or sold Bitcoin so far this week has been most likely stopped out. Yep. Obviously, the people that bought that weekly open today have not been stopped out yet. And they seem to be right. If you fib from your weekly high down to today's low, it's not quite the weekly low, but I would say some sellers are going to jump on this here. You're getting real close to the 786. You're kind of in between the 618, 786. So this whole range is about where sellers would show up. Or sellers that use fib retracements for sell side entries. I think they're on the wrong side of the trade based on what the dollar's doing. But we'll see. Any pullbacks today that hold around the March open would be a potential buying op. I mean, it would be a scary buying op because you would be buying real close to the weekly high. But there could be an argument made, as that is a 2% move, to take a long in that scenario. But I mean, I don't like trading when there's so much volatility happening in the dollar. The daily range on the dollar right now is a big one. So it could trade sideways for the rest of the day. So that would put a chop factor on Bitcoin. This is all my opinion, guys. Obviously, it might not. I mean, Bitcoin trades under its own merit, and because it can't sell off when it's got a perfect opportunity right now for the sellers to nuke this thing, kind of makes me think that you're seeing sell side exhaustion here. Now, with that being said, this almost identical thing happened at the beginning of the year, because last year, the end of the year, December, Bitcoin put in that bear trap or that bear flag, and it was in January when it broke back under that bear flag. For a solid week, it traded sideways like this, and then it broke down. So I mean, could the same thing happen here? Of course. And that is what most people think is going to happen here. So there is your bear flag. For November and December, you put in this long sideways range, and in January, you broke it. right there. Well, you spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days trading under the trend line before ultimately losing it again. And then it was see you later. Boom, 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 boom. It just kept going down. The dominoes started to fall. So you've got the exact, let me get rid of the line chart, trend line. So you've got the exact same scenario playing out here. Literally the exact same scenario. There's your breakdown, close under, bear flag. Oh, and if you go look at the timing as well, it's just absolutely bananas. There's your low. 60 days later, you broke down. This is a little bit sooner, but still 49 days, so a little bit earlier. Same thing though. Now you're in price discovery. So if the sellers have it, they have the door is literally wide open for them to run this down to 30K. Wide open. Can they, though? That's the question. If you break back out above this stuff, back above the March, which tomorrow you're going to have a new VWAP because tomorrow's the Q2 open, April's open, so you're going to have the month of April's volume weighted average price. But if you get back above the daily 21 EMA, let's just say that, it could be a large, quick repricing back up to MSTR's cost basis. And even then, it won't be like a guarantee that you have sell side exhaustion, but it will feel a lot more like you do have sell side exhaustion in Bitcoin, because they have the perfect scenario right now, the absolute perfect scenario to run this thing much lower. So I think they should do it if they're going to, especially because I'm short. I hold a long too. I just have shorts open to protect my long side risk, obviously, but I would rather Bitcoin go up than down. I would rather close the shorts out and then participate on a magnificent rally, which I think would happen if and only if we could get and hold above MicroStrategy's cost basis. I think MicroStrategy's cost basis is literally what the risk is here. All right, so oil is not breaking down. Instead, it's coming back to threaten my short position. Here, you're also seeing a little bit of dollar. This is what I'm talking about. When you get too much of a one-sided move too quickly, it makes it difficult for me to want to take new positions because I know a pullback is probably coming. So on the dollar, for instance, it's been so bearish literally all day or the last couple hours that it kind of needs to pull back. You do have a lower low. So, yeah, I mean, that's a lot right there. What's the yen doing? I haven't even looked at the yen today. The yen is up. It's not up more than the euro or the pound, though. Interesting. See, these things are up so much, I almost feel like the Brent crude trade is a short. But if the dollar rallies and breaks out tomorrow or the next day, then Brent crude probably isn't a short. Do I think that could happen? Yeah. It doesn't feel like the likely scenario at this point, as you made your weekly high and came straight down and make a fresh weekly low. That's usually a decent signal in itself. But it's in Forex world, in the world of currencies, there's a whole lot of games that get played there. If this was a stock, then I would say, oh yeah, this is definitely going lower this week. And I would definitely be looking to catch a short on the pullback. Because anytime you make a fresh weekly or even a daily high and then almost instantly go down and take out those lows, that's usually pretty bearish. It's not always. If you back tested it, it wouldn't happen, 100% of the time. But it seems like, with my experience, that happens often. But I could be full of shit. Who knows? I've never back tested that. I could have Grok do it, probably. But I'm interested to see how much of a fresh weekly high. Okay, we're not making a fresh weekly high on Euro yet. Yeah, we are. Wait, are we? Let's see. Yes. Okay, there's the weekly open. Perfect. So it was a significant fresh weekly high. So right here is your weekly high on Euro, or it was your weekly high. The 1700 hours is your open in FX world. So that's your weekly open right there. There was your weekly high. So this is not just a liquidation to make a fresh weekly high and then a reversal. This was a significant higher high. And then that's your current weekly low. I literally should have been a buyer on Euro. I was a buyer on Euro yesterday, but we got stopped out of it right here. So I should have been a buyer again going into the fresh day open, which was here last night. I should have been a buyer here. And the reason is simple. That's your weekly low. That's your lowest close. This candle did not close under it. So that should have been enough for me to prompt putting that long side risk back on the Euro. I just wasn't watching it. If I would have been watching it, I would have, because that's what my bias was on it yesterday. I was looking for that rejection at the Q4 high on dollar. So yeah, I mean, that's my bad. That's my bad. Significant pullback here. So we may be wrong on oil, guys. Let's get back to the main screen. Significant pullback here. So you can see here why I wanted to be short from this price. As long as it refuses to trade higher than this price, then obviously the short is in the right spot. And boom, there it goes. So it's still got to make that fresh day low. I know it looks like your daily low is here, and pre and post market it is, I guess. Well, post market yesterday, that would be your low. Pre-market today, that's your low. But in reality, if you look at the daily candles, the daily time frame, that is your low of day right there. So we only need Amazon to take out 204.13 and we'll have a fresh daily low, lower low. Oh, gap fill. We need to make that lower low. It's a huge gap up. This is where you closed yesterday. So in reality, if you take the close of yesterday up to today's low, that's how big your gap is on Amazon. That's unfilled. It's a big gap. Not quite as big as this gap was. That gap also ultimately, well, it didn't get filled all the way, did it? Yeah, I guess it did. That wick traded up into this day's low. So that was good enough for the market to say, yeah, gap filled. It looks okay for a short. The structure looks good. Your 200 is above the 21. The 21 is angled to the downside. Your daily RSI going to be below the 50. The 50 has held as resistance, 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 and lower. So for continuation, the short trade does look good. But that chaos in the dollar today, that's kind of what's got the risk markets all jumbled up. A lot of volatility, guys. There's opportunities in this kind of market. You just got to be very, very, you just got to put risk on at the right place and mitigate that risk. There's definitely opportunity. It could definitely break down. It looks good for a larger move lower. And there's plenty of room on this one to go much lower. Yeah. You got earnings coming up on Amazon in April. Q2, baby. I don't know if that's legit or not. It seems like that's in the wrong spot. But maybe this one was in the wrong spot. Thursday, April 23rd. Yeah, it seems like this is a little early. I don't know. Got to make that fresh low, though. That's a must. And it's got a ways to go for that to happen. We'll see. And obviously it's under positioned at $500. Though on Apple, I know I need to sell or buy. Whenever I'm placing a day trade on Apple, on this platform, I need to have a 60 contract position size, which is $1,000 on 10x leverage. It looks like that's probably what I have to do on Amazon as well. So that's quite a bit of capital to tie up. Not a lot, but for a day trade, because if you're short here, you should be able to take profits at the low of day. If you have the correct position sizing, that's not even a 1% move though. So never mind. We might have a good enough position size on Amazon if it were to have a 2% move. I doubt it's going to have a 2% move, but it could. And that wouldn't even be gap fill. I'm not looking for that today. That could be, this could be a swing trade. But for the day trade, yeah, I think next time I trade Amazon, be $1,000 position size. And we'll have the right amount of risk on, the right amount of position sizing on. That way we can take part in a small 1.5% or 1% daily move. That way we don't have to set in it for, days to try to generate a consistent return. Still very quiet. You guys are very, very quiet. All right. Let's see what. Oh, what the hell was that? Felt like something went in my ear. I got headphones on. Brent crude is not breaking down. Instead, it is threatening. Threatening my short. Bitcoin having a go here. Coming off pretty hard. Uh-oh. We might be right on Amazon. There goes. Pretty significant pullback here on Bitcoin. You're under the New York Open. The Bears have the door wide open for them to run this thing much lower. We'll see if they're able to do so. Barcoin is also getting beat up. The deltas look good on Fartcoin for continuation lower. Zcash. We should have shorted Zcash this morning, but I didn't take it because it had already pulled back too far off of that high. When I was looking at it, it was already at 251.99. The trade would have been 256.38. But it would have been a very risky short because this was a short squeeze. This is just a midpoint check, though. So buyers could pick it up right here. And you could see another expansion up. We'll see. We shall see. I hate saying that over and over again, but unfortunately, that's the way this works. Time. It takes time for these markets to move. Amazon setting a higher daily low. Is that where your intraday 200 is at this point? Probably. Let's go see. Oh no, it's got a long ways to go. I don't know that you will get down there. I would actually like it if it made a fresh day low. I'd feel good about the short. Yeah, unfortunately, though, it's underpositioned. Brent crude trying to stop us. Yeah. This could be news. I don't know. Tanked. I don't know if I'd say that it tanked. It was up, what, almost 2%. Now it's down on the day. I guess, yeah, it's pretty tanked. Wasn't quite 2%. It was like 1 something. I think this could be some kind of headline because of how violent the euro got to the downside. Amazon back to the March open. What did Apple do? It's working on closing the gap. You got a fresh daily low on Apple. So we should have shorted the year 2025 year open on Apple. Damn it. I didn't love the idea of taking that trade because it's a yearly level on an intraday basis. I didn't think that price would respect it. And I didn't look at Apple enough this morning before I went live to even get a decent place to look for the trade. I wouldn't have shorted it here. I just wouldn't have. So Apple didn't give me a short setup, guys. Ooh, I could have taken the short based on last week's close. It still would have been I still probably would not have taken it. So even if I was looking at it, I still probably would not have taken it. I think Amazon looked the best out of all of them. Nvidia freaking was on fire this morning. You filled a couple gaps on Nvidia. Well, no, just one gap. Small gap. Large gap up here. And Nvidia has not sold off nearly as hard. Amazon gapped up and is up 1.8%. It's a higher low so far on Bitcoin. Iran's IRGC issued a warning against 18 American technology companies, among them Microsoft, Apple, Google, Intel, and Boeing, stating that they will be considered legitimate targets. Thanks, Tom. That's the headline. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Right now with this garbage going on over there, you can have really good setups. It isn't going to matter. Trading firms are going to be paying attention to every headline that comes out. It's going to be anticipated. It's going to be, moves are going to get placed on that. You can have the best technical setup in the world and still not do any good at all. But yeah, I mean, Iran, that's about all they could do really at this point. I mean, they don't have any military really left or any military equipment. They still have rockets and drones, but not as nearly as much as they did have. So cyber warfare is on the table. This is the problem with the US doing what it's done here. You can't fight these terrorists. They do not give a shit. They do not fight. You cannot fight a standard war unless you're prepared to go in there and just annihilate towns. You're not going to be able to force them to do what you want them to do. They knew that in World War II with Japan. They knew that the only way you could get those soldiers to capitulate is to make them suffer. And the only way you can make them suffer is by annihilating civilians. Nobody's going to do that anymore. It almost doesn't even make sense to threaten a war. Because nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to nuke or kill a bunch of innocent civilians. But that's what you have to do to fight terrorism. You'd have to annihilate them. And nobody wants that kind of war. Going door to door for 35 years. Nope. So yeah, Trump made a bad decision here, I think. We'll see. Time will determine. I mean, obviously you don't want a terrorist group having a freaking nuclear weapon either. Especially when their chants at every freaking rally is death to America and death to Israel. You definitely can't just stand by and let them build a death machine. So I'm glad I'm not a politician. I'll just say that and be done with it. But yeah, headline risk is going to be the major warning, or at least the major risk from now on until this is over. But I mean, I'm short Bitcoin, so I'm more than okay with it dropping off the chart. If it wants to go, let it go. I don't care. My positions are protected. Oil didn't stop us out yet, so there isn't no reason to get too worried about that move on Bitcoin just yet. This could be a fake out to the upside move on for the longs. It could be. It did take out resistance to the upside on the very near term. But we'll see what happens now. This could very well still dump. We'll see. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's wanting to take out the longs. Because all you got to do is get above this wick right here, and you've gotten all the London and New York session longs, because it didn't go anywhere. It's literally stayed sideways in this very tight range. So now putting oil positions on are going to be difficult. But I knew that coming into the session. So I was okay with putting the risk on. It looked good. But damn. 4, 8, 57 minutes on this close, and that will be 12 hours of literal sideways price action. 4 hours of downside, 12 hours of congestion. Love it. My favorite kind of market. That's a joke. I like markets that trend. Trending moves is where you make the money on delta positive positions. Of course, if you're selling puts and calls, this is exactly the kind of market you want. I would not be able to sell calls in this market, I don't think. But with volatility jacked up the way it is, I bet oil calls are expensive. So you could probably sell way out the money and do pretty good on premium because the volatility is so jacked up. I haven't looked at any oil calls. It's just, for me, easier to mitigate losses on directionally biased positions. Selling puts and calls is swing trading. To get into the real money, you're gonna have to go way out in time. That's a long ways out of the money. And I would have to get it up there. But even then, it would be super risky. But 120 oil is massively expensive, guys. which you won't see it on this chart. What is Brent crude? Let me pull up Tasty real quick. Amazon pulling back off the lows. It's a higher low still. We haven't seen what we need to see yet. We need to see a lower low. Watch list. CL is oil futures. All right, so what's Brent, dude? Oh, caps lock. I'm sorry. What's the ticker? I forget. You're a dumb robot. I have to be specific. BZ. Thank you. There we go. Yeah. You haven't seen these prices since 2022. It's been very choppy for the last 4 weeks. Counting this week. This week's only Tuesday, so obviously, but this week's only a 4-day week, so there's going to be no trading Friday. Friday will be a holiday in the U.S. It's Good Friday. Easter's this Sunday. So 4 weeks, you've done literally nothing. You're trading inside that one super volatile week. You've done nothing really. But last week was a trending week, which is why this week, why we're so interested in looking for a short. Now, that, depending on the analyst you're talking to, would be looked at as bullish pressure. And I wouldn't argue against that, but it can also be looked at as bearish targets, as this is a trending candle. This is obviously a massively big bullish candle that is trending. This is an inside candle. This is a downside trending candle. So yes, you did pull all of those losses back, but gapping down this week has me thinking this would be more of the target, but we'll see. Than 119 would be. You know what I mean? So in order to wipe out this trending candle, you would have to take out 119 to the upside. It is still possible, as your buyers are coming in right there. That seems to be the issue here. You gap down below it, but the bears could not hold it. Bulls ran it right back up and picked it up right here. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like the dip buyers are still stronger. You're in price discovery here, making higher lows. I don't know. Should have looked at this instead of looking at the crypto exchange. This would have been a lot more, how do you say, informative. Yeah, for sure. This gap down doesn't count because it's not legit sell side pressure that made you get the gap down. It's the contract change. This was an expiring contract. that you changed over to the new contracts, and that caused the gap down. So really, this price should be up here. No, it's not a gap down from sell side pressure like this was. This is just a contract change. So really and truly, you've done nothing since this contract, which just started this week, I guess. Because what I'm trading is perpetual. They don't close. Amazon bouncing. Bitcoin bouncing. Whole lot of nothing. Just trading inside today's low and high. This is very sideways price action. And I'm not stopped out of oil yet, so. Wait, that is not right. XPR. We're still okay here. Wow, says Prediculous. Yep. LOL, LMG. Sleeper cells inside the US. Yeah, they're here. I guarantee it. I'd say every nation in the world has sleeper cells in the US at this point. If energy lockdowns spread like wildfire in Asia, I fully expect the pressure to show up in oil. What, you mean the pressure that's been here since you got the move up the wazoo? Yeah, I'm not anticipating oil to roll over and have a big move like this. I just thought we could easily get down to like here. With the weakness that we've seen on the dollar coming into the session. Makes sense. Makes sense to me. But I'm not always right. That's why I have to use a stop. Because I am not always right. Far too many things going in favor of oil bulls right now despite the ugly chart. Yep, I would agree with that. To an extent, right? I would agree with that to an extent. You gotta realize that this is super extended, super expensive too. And Trump hates it. Every second that it's like this. He likes to brag about low oil prices, not high oil prices. But I agree with you. The risk is out there. But each day that goes by, it starts to put pressure to the downside also. Because Iran really, really, really can't, they can bark loud, but they really can't do anything, militarily speaking, to the U.S. So literally the only reason why the U.S. doesn't have boots on the ground is because the U.S. doesn't want to put boots on the ground. So literally, it would be like, this situation would be very similar to like if I was a bully and I went and grabbed the smallest nerd in school and duct taped his ass to a chair with 6 rolls of duct tape and handcuffed his hands to his feet behind the chair. And now I can do literally whatever I want to him. There's nothing he can do. That's essentially what the U.S. military has here with Iran. It's a stalemate. They can't do anything, really. They can bark and they can take little pop shots at, boats, which is easy to do because the strait is narrow. That's what they have. That and cyber warfare. And a whole lot of AI generation of how they're kicking the U.S.'s butt, right? But really and truly, to the extent of war, like, we can't do anything else unless we just full on go in there and take over their oil, put troops on the ground, and, then we might stand a better chance of getting the strait open. But, they're talking to each other. You can bet your ass they are. And whatever Iran says, even though they're telling the media, no, we're not, Trump's a liar, They are talking. I promise you that. And Trump said yesterday to Bloomberg that they are close. When it happens, which it probably will, we'll see. I mean, maybe there's a lot more going on that I'm not aware of, but it seems like it's just a matter of time before the strait is fully operational. Maybe not fully operational because all the surrounding nations went offline. So they haven't even been pumping oil. There's no point to pump if there's nothing to ship. Yeah, so it could be months and months, but still each day that goes by, I feel like we're getting closer and closer to these prices easing up a bit. I could be wrong, 100%. I've been wrong before. But if I wouldn't even have us in this mess. But whatever. This is just a big freaking mess. I like the opportunity that Volatile provides. What I do not like is just the craziness of the markets. The erratic, some days up, some days down, because there's no analysis that's going to be any use at all in that scenario. And I work on analysis. That's how I put positions on. I get my analysis and then I put risk on. I just know that I'm going to be stopped out more often than I would say if everything was going good and normal and right. Yeah, it is what it is. It's a mess, man. And we went through this 4 years before. From 2016 to 2020, Trump was the president then, and he wasn't nearly as crazy as he is now in terms of making huge moves, but there was a lot of stuff going on back then that's different to what's going on today, too. Like China wasn't full-blown stocking up wartime goods and stuff. So I can see why he did what he did. I just don't know, and only time will tell if it was the right thing to do. Well, obviously, right now, it was not the right thing to do because oil is massively up here. Yeah, but it's even affecting crypto markets like crazy. Just choppy, chaotic mess. It's gnarly to look at on the weekly time frame. It's just, you've been literally in a straight line for weeks. We kind of knew the low would be the near-term low for at least a couple weeks, but damn, dude. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 9 weeks in of sideways. Garbage. Very sideways. A lot of people are getting chopped up in Bitcoin. We're doing good. This community is doing really good. We took a trade over here that got stopped out there. Then we took another trade over here that got stopped out. Then we made money here to the upside. And then we made money here to the downside. So we've been doing pretty good. We took a couple losses and then we got that money back. All right. So we're in the positive on this range, which I would say a lot of communities probably aren't. I'd say a lot of people have gotten chopped up through this mess, but we're doing good. So yeah, I guess I don't have too much to bitch about. But I wish I like trends. I like trends. Trends are fun. They're easy. Your batting average goes back up. It's not so much of a coin toss. You can put the probabilities back in your favor. Things like that. But I mean, there's no reason to close the shorts on Bitcoin yet. That's for sure. And especially since you've broken down here, it's going to be there's going to be a lot more sell side pressure on it till you get back above that daily 21, which I'm sure needs to be moved at this point. I haven't moved it. We're not that far off if we go excuse me, by yesterday's close, 68,973. So we need to drop it a couple $100. Boom. Not much lower, but still. If we can reaccumulate that, then we can look for those upside targets. But as long as price looks like this, you almost have to be a seller. It is still extremely extended to the downside, but unfortunately it looks like that the mean is coming closer and closer with each week that passes, if the mean is the 200-day. The mean looks like 75,871 because that's where prices backed off again. So it does look like Michael Saylor's cost basis is hard to argue that isn't what is causing pressure here. Looks like the squeeze is not over. I would be concerned if I was Saylor. If I had 80 whatever, whatever. I was about to say $87 billion, but I'm pretty sure it's closer to $60 billion tied up in this asset. Whew. I mean, he's betting his whole country's future on it. And I hope he's right. I hope Bitcoin does what he thinks it's going to do. So, yeah, it looked like it was going to stop us out, but like I said, you get these kind of fake out moves to the upside, just like you get them to the downside when you're in a choppy market like this. I mean, it was straight up and halfway back down. Amazon right back up. See, this is what I was talking about. This is a higher low, guys. A higher daily low. And you're right back to where we shorted it. So this feels more risk on to me than it does risk off. So I would assume that the dollar downside move is a legit move. I haven't looked at it, but yeah. Amazon is right back up. S&P also right back up. Could be just a matter of time before Bitcoin is right back up again. You got to be quick to take profits in a market like this. Quick to take profits. If you try to catch that continuation trade, you better be good at identifying those key levels, because that's the one thing we're missing a lot of is continuation. Could be a much bigger problem if the Pakistan/India tensions flare up as a result of this conflict. Are they flaring up? Yeah, that could be an issue. But those two nations don't like each other anyways. Aren't they always squabbling? Squabble up. Squabble up. I think they always squabbled up. Pakistan and India, especially at the border. Have you guys saw those crazy dances they do? I think that's funny, but I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of, but they have dance-offs in each other's faces. It's awesome. Awesome stuff. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. I've heard a lot of crazy stuff happening this week, but I didn't hear anything about India-Pakistan relations getting beefed up again. Yeah, I'd say a lot of nations are upset at the old Trumpster right about now. But he really doesn't care. Did you see the tweet he posted this morning? Or the Truth Social post, I should say? My goodness, man. Well, if any of y'all are struggling for jet fuel, you could buy it from us. We're selling oil right now. Might even give you a discount, or we would have. You wasn't bitch-made little sissy boys running around. Trump, man. Tell it how it is, Trump. I would egg that dude on if I was in his like close circle. I'd be the guy in the background yelling, "Beat his ass, Trump. Tell him, Trump." I would be egging him on. Oh, it'd be so funny. It'd be priceless. The memes I could generate. Ooh. Yeah, he's a loose cannon. Huh. When he won the presidency, I rolled my eyes, not because I dislike him or anything, just because of what the first 4 years looked like in the markets with that man. People were setting Twitter bots off and stuff. It was, I mean, we knew this was coming. We knew volatility was coming. Trump brings the vol. All right. So still a bunch of nothing since the New York session. We really not gone anywhere. We're back up from the New York session. Right here's your New York candle. Oh, literally just a bunch of sideways garbage here on the old bitsters. Damn. I was hoping we'd be able to get into a nice trade today. Why do I got two Amazons? Nvidia's back up too, up 3%. So it does feel more risk on out there. MSTR is down, but of course it's down. Yeah, MSTR, man, you are on the floor, bro. Coin got hammered also. Oracle back down. Robinhood fresh yearly lows. Yeah, I'm not seeing. Where did Circle go? I thought I had Circle on that watch list. I guess not. Circle has pulled back a little bit. It was a big pullback last week. Monthly open so far holding, but I don't like that wick. You haven't retested it yet. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's a big move lower. You got above the 200-day moving average and couldn't hold it. So that's kind of concerning. You barely have enough data for a 200-day moving average, but it's right there. So essentially, if you had more data going back further in time, right here's your 200-day, it would look like that. So this is all just a trap, right? That's what we would have been a seller here, anticipating that, most likely. We didn't get the 200-day until right here on this candle, though. So we couldn't identify this trade, but yeah, that anytime you get back up into the 200 on the first attempt, you gotta be very cautious. So all of this, just a trap. Yep. I'm going to get rid of that. That's the New York Open. Crazy stuff. I'm probably going to get out of the Amazon trade. Well, we might as well wait for it to get above 206 before we cancel it. Above 206, I don't want to be holding a short anymore. You've already filled that gap up there. So this has to hold as resistance for me to be able to hold the short. It's as simple as that. Oil is just nothing. What did gold and silver do today? Let's go take a look. They're popping slightly here, which makes sense. Weak dollar. So gold and silver coming back to the 200 on daily. And it's, I mean, on the 4 hour, on the daily is what's holding support on silver. Same can be said on gold. So now it'll be interesting to see if gold doesn't build in a nice support zone in and around 43.77. If it gets back down there, might be a buying opportunity on gold. That's your 2026 yearly opening range, and it did hold. It's on the very near term, but if gold can hold 43.19, that might be a buying op. Only time will tell. This could be a liquidation move if the dollar goes back to being strong. We shall see. If you guys know of any opportunities or something you want to look at, let me know in the chat. You know of a trade idea that I have not seen yet, I will go look at it. Aussie dollar still looks okay for this short. Probably going to have a few days of sideways price action. Nice trend lower. That trade was a beautiful short. We nailed that one pretty damn good. We nailed silver pretty damn good. I think most Forex currency pairs are going to be a little bit jacked up right now. Starting to see a little bit of a sell-off here on USD JPY. But it's still very much structured for an upside move. You got a long-term breakout on USD JPY is way up there though, 161. I think for the BOJ to intervene, you're probably going to have to be above that. I don't really want to short this until the BOJ intervenes. I don't know if they will intervene, but they said they would. We'll see what happens. Swissy yen did pull back this week. This thing has been absolutely on fire for so long. It's been printing bearish divergence for a long time too. Though it makes sense that you are pulling back here. It'll be interesting to see what happens at the weekly 50 on the RSI. Euro Aussie popped up this week. That's going to be due to Australian dollar weakness. But that's a pretty extended move on the very near term. Got room to go though. So if you're short Aussie dollar with me or long Euro Aussie or something, I don't see no reason to close that. Pound CAD. This was one that I was looking at last week, but I think this one's going to be a difficult trade too, as Canadian dollar sometimes benefits from strong oil. So I kind of had a short bias on it because of that. And also if the dollar was going to be strong, I figured, the pound would be weaker than Canadian dollar from dollar strength. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening here at all. Yeah, I would probably be okay to hold a short side bias on it as long as January's open holds as resistance. Still nothing here. Tesla very much inside Monday's range. Yeah, I called. Yeah, no, that's right. Okay. I was getting ready to say, we were testing Friday's range on Amazon. Yeah, it looks like we're not going to get that big move in New York on oil or on Bitcoin. Looks like it's going to be the second half of the day. I'm going to tell the story on these things. So the New York session open is right on the day open. That's funny. Literally identical prices. But you're still slightly up on Bitcoin. The day isn't over. It looks like the bears are keeping it down, but that's the headline risk, because if you don't get that headline risk, Bitcoin probably makes a fresh day high by this time. It was definitely headed that way. It was definitely headed that way. So yeah, headline risk is going to continue to be the issue. We knew that coming into the week. XBR still not breaking down. Would love to see it though. Let's go, you bitch. You said, Lunar says, just keeping an eye on the conflict potentially turning religious. Whole different problem. Oh gosh, yeah, we don't want that. None of that, please. Yeah, we'll give it a few more minutes so to see if anything starts to happen for us. We're positioned, but it looks like it's going to have to go into the second half of the day to see any fruit from those positions. It's a big support to break through on oil. That makes sense that it bounced. It's a big support. I like this party. Amazon trying to break back above 206. That's Friday's, or sorry, yeah, Friday's open. There was a slight gap up there that it filled here. It came down. It looked like it was going to make a lower daily low and then fall out of bed, but it did not. It ran short of making that lower daily low and popped right back up to resistance. So clearly I'm not the only one watching these levels. A lot of traders watching these levels because these levels work. That's why they get watched. Objectivity is a beautiful thing. Gold's got a fresh breakout here today. Fresh weekly highs. So gold is actually trending so far this week. I'm sure some people will be interested in selling gold at 46.02. If it fails to get any kind of bullish momentum above that level. It looks good for upside continuation here, but it may run out of steam. We'll see. I think it could be a trade a short side setup on gold if you were anticipating a breakout on the dollar, but I don't know that it's one I would want to take. We might take it. We'll see what it does. Silver has not done that yet, so could be a short trade on silver as well. You did get finally that close back under the weekly 21, and then last week did the exact same thing. So you could see some weakness here on silver. If I was going to trade gold and silver, I would want to trade silver instead of gold. And this is the reason why right here. Oh, can't see that. Right here. Silver moves more than gold does on an intraday basis. That's your silver right there. It's up 5. Gold's only up 2. The silver is still consistently moving more than gold. They tend to trade the same. When one's up, the other's usually up. Or if one's down, the other's usually down. But if you are going to trade the chart, I think silver provides more of an opportunity. For the scalp, right? If you're a scalper. It is at a level, but it's not there yet. Gold is, though. So gold is already setting up. I think gold did move maybe close to what silver did on this downside push. I guess I could check it. Probably not. That was a 13% drop. $17. So no, silver did outperform gold. So I think the risk here, I think it's a risky short to take before you get an actual test of that prior week high. But yeah, I think I would, because you're trading above the prior 4-hour swing high, I think I would have to let it happen almost. Yeah, you're trading above the prior 12-hour high. I mean, you're at this point, you're expanding. This is range expansion. However, it could be a trap. I don't think it would be today. Let me see. Yeah, I think you're early if you're looking for the short today. I mean, you're seeing heavier sell side pressure come in up here at these prices, though. Though it's almost at a level that I could be interested in taking the short. It's just not quite at the level. But here's the thing. If the dollar reverses today, if the dollar is at a buying opportunity today, which I wouldn't like that trade because it's already made that lower low, but that doesn't really matter. It could still be looked at as an intraday pullback or an intra-week pullback. It could still get bought up. Because in terms of the weekly range, you could have set the weekly low today, is what I'm saying. And then the rest of the week could be an expansion on a breakout. And in that scenario, I definitely would want to be short silver. I think we just have to be patient and see if it can come up to here and then reject. If it does that, or comes up here and builds in a small range even, like this, then you could simply say, okay, if it breaks out of this range to the upside, I'm wrong on the short. If it breaks back under, I want to be short. So this might be a trade setup for tomorrow. It might not be today. It might be tomorrow. But I definitely would not mind taking a short at silver at 74, spot 57, if it refuses to trade higher. So people are leaving, and they're leaving too soon, because I'm giving you a literal trade setup that it might not play out today. It might play out tomorrow. Well, that's good news. That means you could potentially make money tomorrow. So, yeah, that's what I'd be looking at. If it shows me the inability to give me a trending move above 74.57, I could probably put a short on, right? Yeah. It would be better if it plays out perfectly like that, but obviously it probably won't, because we're not getting perfect setups now. But yeah, I don't think that plays out unless you get a strong trending move on the dollar, because gold and silver get bought up in times of fear and in times of uncertainty, in times of high inflation, which all of that is now possible. So being short gold and silver is a risky trade, especially because we've got the move to the downside that we were anticipating getting. If it gets accumulated, I don't necessarily want to be a seller on gold and silver. So if the dollar were to fall back down, but you would almost need this war to stop for that to happen, I think. Yeah, it's definitely a difficult market to trade, to be an active trader in. Don't get chopped up and mitigate your risk. Could be something to watch. To catch up, did you cover Tesla today? We just briefly spoke about it. We haven't taken any positions on it or anything. It's rejecting yesterday's open for right now. But because the dollar came off so brutally this morning, it's given the risk markets more of a risk on feel today. That could change at any time because these things are trending lower. So whenever you're in a downtrend, you do definitely want to be trading on the side of the trend. Now, I don't necessarily love the idea of taking a fresh short this low inside the range because of where everything is and how everything's been playing out. We've been getting these moves, but they're attached to strong reversals in the opposite direction. So it's been a very choppy asset. Tesla has been, but now you have broken down. You are no longer in the multi-month range. So I would look for that trend to continue. I think the better setup on it would be a Feb low or March open retest. But you got that the last 2 weeks, so you might not get that this week. Excuse me. So although I think shorting the weekly open on Tesla would be a very aggressive short, unfortunately last week's open is only right here. That's what I mean. The moves up have been a lot more aggressive and quick. But overall, the markets have resumed lower. That is the trend right now. So I would have to be looking for those trades, the downside trades on Tesla. If it can stay under 380, I would have to have a more near-term short side bias. But I would realize that I'm shorting very low on the range, if that makes any sense. Like, the setup's not clean. I guess one could argue and say, yeah, it is very clean. It's under the weekly open. So as long as you're under the weekly open, you could be short. I just don't love that setup. There's a gap right here. I'd feel a lot more comfortable shorting if it rejects trending above that gap. So it looks like the downside move might want to continue on the dollar today. And the reason I'm saying that's because we've been trading sideways here for a couple hours now. It's a higher low. The near-term trend is up. But because you're tightening up here, it looks like it may want to break back lower. It's already moved pretty good. Today's range is already much bigger than yesterday's was, and it's bigger than Friday's was. So I wouldn't be taking a fresh setup on the dollar because the range is already bigger. The day trade has already happened. Longer term swing trade, I still have more of a bullish bias on it. Even though you have a bearish engulfing at resistance. I just kind of feel like the shorts on the dollar right now are on the wrong side. But oil is a huge driver on the dollar. And oil is basically driving order flow on all markets right now. I mean, think about it like this. If you disagree with that sentiment or that statement, just look at it like this. Today, oil is sideways and choppy. So is the dollar, but the dollar had a nice trending move, but it is trading inside yesterday's range. So is this. So is this. It's like everything is choppy. Nothing is trending. I feel like a trending move, if it were to occur in the second half of the day, will probably give you the day's direction. But I could be wrong about that. It just feels like I'm not. Because everything is very choppy this morning. We literally set the low of the day in Amazon at the open. And for the first 20 minutes, we trended up and set the high of day. And since then, you have not done anything. You have not set another high. You have not set another low. You had one move so far this morning. Now, I understand that I am short this asset, and it may not look like that on certain assets, but I'm just across the board. I kind of feel like that's basically what we've got. And it is. We were talking about Apple this morning on the open. So Apple did the same thing. Apple's even worse in terms of a tight, choppy range. It's even worse. You opened, you set a daily high in the first 20 minutes, then you set a fresh low, you're back to the high. You don't get any choppier than that. Super choppy. You're not trending. Bitcoin, what has it done since 9:30? Stayed inside the day high, stayed up above the day low, and you're inside. Very choppy. Everything is choppy. Except the dollar. But since 9:30, it even has been. A lot of nothing here. If oil doesn't break down in the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'm probably going to bail on this idea. Because we've been trading here now for the last 15 minutes. If it doesn't start to break down soon, I'm probably going to bail on it. Yeah. If you shorted silver at 120, 121, what would be your first take profit? I would have already taken profits, my friend. If I shorted at 121. Yeah. I already taken profits. I already closed out my silver shorts. It was a complete and total fluke. But I shorted silver at 96. And 70 was my take profit. So if I shorted 121, I mean, damn, you nailed the freaking top. I would definitely be taking profits. Yeah, I wouldn't be anticipating much more of a bigger trending move out of this. We know that the central banks accumulated a shitload of gold and silver. And then retail craziness is what caused it to do this. That's pretty much been reset back to where the central banks. So that's why I don't love the idea of a downside move on silver. A much bigger downside move. It could happen, of course. And it will happen if that's what the market participants think is going to happen. I just don't know that it will. We'll see. I would definitely be taking profits. It's likely we simply chop until a real resolution comes. It's possible that happens for sure. It is literally what we're doing. Uh-oh. We might be about to see a trending move on Bitcoin. Yeah, I think the dollar could be very dangerous here. I think that a lot of people are going to get bearish on the dollar because of this momentum, and it literally could be the wrong play. We'll see. It made a fresh weekly low here, and you're still holding the weekly open. Could be a potential short on the dollar right now, but I don't like it after a big trending move like that. It was a big move. Oh my gosh, these boring markets, man. Seems like with volatility this high, the risk markets would be just literally trending down every single day. Every day you'd be seeing a gap down, lower lows, lower lows, lower lows. And it's just not what we have here. This is probably one of the choppiest bears or lower moves. It's not a bear market yet, but probably one of the choppier sell-offs I've ever seen in my life. It seems like every other time I got in on a short for a downside break, it happened fast and strong. This has been just absolute chop slop. Analysts have been getting torn apart because of that. We've done really good. I have a short spread from 650 down to 635 on the S&P, which was completely in the money on Friday's close. The long put is in the money at 650. So that trade is still very much in the money. I think, like, I could almost make the argument to get long on the euro, but I'm not going to, so I don't want anybody else to do it. I am not going because it has already moved so much, but because you have these two hourly equal lows right here, if the euro pulls back and holds support at like 1.1516 again, I could probably be a buyer there. If this move wasn't as big as it is. You know what I mean? It's because this expansion was so big and fast this morning that I don't think you could get long here anticipating a fresh day high, because you're already on the outskirts of what is even possible given a one standard deviation. Obviously, it can move 2 or 3 standard deviations inside of one day. But you would almost have to be super strong pretty much all day for that to happen. And 3 hours of absolute sideways is not super strong. But it does look like support is trying to hold here. Yeah, this is just way too big. If you fib that, you're still in like the very top echelon of that day's fib. So that's your low. Yeah. You didn't even retest the 382 yet, which is consistent with a strong market. Also, a shallow correction is consistent with a very strong market. But it just, I don't like buying super shallow pullbacks. I like catching the meat of the move. To me, that feels like you're trying to catch just a very small piece of the move. It's not the style of trading I like to do. So yeah, Bitcoin back down to the day open. Could be a buying opportunity, but I think you would need the dollar weakness to continue and oil weakness, I think then you could see a risk on rally. Just, ugh. That is ugly. Bugly. A lot of people trading this today. It actually feels like the opposite, though. It feels like there's not much happening in terms of volume, but it is. It's pretty big volumes. All right. 12 o'clock. So let's see here. DXY wants to go down, says Jewelry Affairs. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Yeah. It definitely went lower today. I'll take your word for it. Well, that sucks. I was hoping we would be able to take profits on either oil or Amazon before the stream wrapped up. Unfortunately, we got a lot of nothing today. On a Tuesday. Tuesdays usually, I want to see ranging days. Not ranging, sorry, range expansion days. I want to see weekly range expansions starting to happen on Tuesday. And not pre or post market either. But that's essentially what you got. The range expansion did occur on Amazon because you closed down here yesterday, opened with a gap up, and saw range expansion pretty much through the pre-market and then the first few minutes of the New York session. So judging by this higher low right here, I would have to assume that the rest of the day continues to do that. So in line with Jewelry Affairs, the dollar is going lower call, right? I would assume that's probably what's going to happen here because this was the opportunity for the bears to run it down and fill that gap. And not only were they unable to do that, but the bulls protected today's low. So it feels like this wants to break out to the upside. I don't know if it'll do that or not. We're short, so we don't want that to happen. But we're also short oil. So if that happens, maybe, just maybe, we get lucky and oil does break below support and give us a trending move similar to this leg of price here. Though there is a measured move that we can take from that. Right? If resistance holds, you could look for a move down to 102. I don't know that it happens today. It could happen the last part of the day and some of tomorrow's range, but that's what I would be anticipating here. And take profits. My take profits would probably come way ahead of that arrow. If you get a move down to 104.50, you should be getting out of oil. As that's about what would be possible looking at a standard measured move. Now here's the thing. If Jewelry Affairs is wrong and the dollar doesn't want to go down, instead the buyers used this pullback as an opportunity to get long, anticipating the breakout, then oil probably does not break down. And we eat the stop on Amazon. Oh wait, no, that would bring risk off onto Amazon. It looks like I'm gonna eat a stop on Amazon. So I probably won't. I'll just close the Amazon trade out, most likely, if it looks like it's going to stop me out. My stop is well above the high of day on that one. So I have some room to play around with it, but I'm not gonna eat a full stop on it. There's no point, as if it's above this price right here, it wants to go higher. And that's it. The other positions I have on are already mitigated. So I'm just looking to catch a longer trending move on those. Because it's on the house. That money's all on the house. There's no point for me to close it. It's free money. If it wants to drop out of sight, I'll make more money on it. If it comes back up to where I got short, then I'll get stopped out. On Fartcoin, that is much lower. Bitcoin would have to make a big move to stop that trade out, because we got short on Bitcoin right here. Pretty much on that high. We got short on Wednesday of last week, and we got an expansion lower. And that trend is still intact. As long as you're under the midpoint of that expansion candle right there, then the pressure is still on the downside on Bitcoin. So I would close this short out. If it starts or closes today back above the 21, then I would probably get out of it. So if you're still holding a swing trade short from there, you could look at it in the same light. We essentially got short on Wednesday. We got the breakdown, and then the very next day was an expansion. It was an absolute beautiful trade. Shorting Wednesday, Thursday gave you a nice expansion lower, and then Friday gave you continuation. And it's done nothing since. Now, that's Saturday and Sunday price action, but this is Monday and freaking Tuesday. So this doesn't look good for Bitcoin, to say the least. It looks like lower is coming. But that could be wrong. You're still holding yesterday's open as support. That's your weekly open. So if you have a bullish bias on Bitcoin, this should be the level that pretty much tells you to change your bias. I wouldn't say that you're wrong yet, but I would say that if you take out yesterday's low and then start to see continuation, you're probably wrong. You're probably wrong, and there's no point to fight it at that point. So those are the more macro style weekly levels that are going to be important this week. So either Bitcoin's range is set, you have both your weekly high and low, which I would say is the less probable scenario, but it could be the fact. Then you'll just see a whole lot of chop this entire week. And last week's open would be resistance. But because this, as of right now, because this high is just so small compared to the previous day's high, the more time it spends under the March open, remember today's the monthly close. So today at 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if this thing is trading under this price, you're going to have a red close on the month. Or blue in my case, but it's down. I should just say down, not red. A down close month. Which isn't the end of the game, but at the same time, it doesn't feel great either if you are bullish. So, yeah, those are going to be your massive levels to watch. You can pretty much... You don't need any other level. You can be long from here, you can be short from there, and then that's it. It will be range expansion that dictates whether you are correct or you are wrong. Pretty easy to mitigate risk when that's the case. The structure is still very bearish. You're below your VWAP on the month. You're below the daily 21. You've broken down below the bear flag trend line. And I know that does not seem that important for those uber bulls out there, but it is. The bears have the cards on their table. So they can win if they want. So it's just, do they choose to do that or not? This thing is ready to go. It's primed. You've been sideways for 4 days now. So it's primed up. It's ready to go. At any point, this thing could start trending. Hopefully for the bulls, it's to the upside. Hopefully you do make a fresh higher weekly high today, and then you see a trending move right back up to 72K. That would be a beautiful sight for you. But if that does not happen, I would be ready to close those positions, because if this thing gets going to the downside, it's probably not going to take very long to start making fresh lows. And the risk that is out there currently, if you're on, does not want to negotiate, then that is what I would assume the markets do. It does feel like that's just too much risk. And then oil and all that stuff goes right back to the upside. But I mean, we'll see, right? It's still not... I don't want you to think that it's definitely going lower, because that's not what I think. I'm just saying that is what is possible. All right. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Nobody's asking questions or nobody has a setup or anything. We're short oil. We're short Amazon. We're short Bitcoin. We're short fart coins. Some of those positions will come off today, whether it's in profits or in stops. We'll see. I'll see you guys Thursday morning, same time, same place. Thank you guys so much for your time. As always, make sure you trade safe, make sure you trade smart, and as always, happy trading, everybody.